Hello and welcome to the Columbus Metropolitan Club. If you've been here before, you know we don't usually have a musical intro, but today is going to be a very different day. Very good to see you all. Today's forum, the Not So Late Show with Johnny DiLoretto, is sponsored by WCBE. Many of their guests and associates are in the audience today. Please help thank them. Last summer, CMC decided to experiment with our forums occasionally, just to see if we can change things up a little bit. I'm change averse, so I'm the one they got to start the ball rolling today. We'll let you be the judge as to whether we hit or miss the mark today. I have been advised we are not offering any refunds. Further warning, today's topic, artificial intelligence, is not a direct reference to the host or any of the speakers. Ladies and gentlemen here, please sit back and enjoy the Not So Late Show with Johnny DiLoretto.
I'm not Johnny DiLoretto, as you can tell, but I am Summer Marie, the co-host and co-producer of the Not So Late Show. So welcome to the luncheon, everybody. Give yourselves a round of applause for being here. Thank you. Yeah, I'm so thrilled to be here today to give you a little taste of what we do each month at Shadowbox Live in the Backstage Bistro. We laugh, we learn, and we talk about real things that are going on in our communities. So if you like what you see, check out Shadowbox's website, and get your tickets now for the next show, which is coming up February 22nd, yes, 7:30. And also check us out on Facebook. We have a Facebook page, The Not So Late Show, with Johnny DiLoretto. Am I right? The Columbus Metropolitan Club was started for women because they were often, not invited to luncheons and public speaking events. I think that's great. Especially, it's very timely right now. So another round of applause for that, please. Yeah. I read on the website that the organization was founded by, quote, 13 feisty ladies. And I don't know about you guys, but I don't think anything says feisty quite like luncheon. So let's get this party started, all right? And without further ado, I'm going to welcome your host. All these years ago, he made a name for himself right here in Columbus, and by that, I mean he literally made up his own last name. Please welcome Mr. Johnny DiLoretto!
Stop now, Dave. Don't stop now. No, the Bot Boys, everybody. How about that? You often see Dave when you walk in, right? How nice is it to have him in here, playing in the room, right? So yeah, as Carol pointed out and Summer pointed out, a little different format today at the CMC. We're letting our hair down and loosening our tie, so to speak, collectively. I just want to address both genders there, but don't worry. We won't stray too far from having three middle-aged white guys up here, taking care of that. Ho, hey, see, there he goes. Is that fun? All right, stay tuned. There's more where that came from. We'll keep the monologue short. I just want to welcome everybody to the boathouse at Confluence Park, the lovely Confluence Park, where the waters of the Scioto and Olentangy kind of meet. They don't really meet. Actually, it's like where the muds of those two rivers meet. Thank you. We got Steve Shoney here. Steve, can we do something can we get a river built? Can we have two rivers? Like legit rivers? Okay, thank you. We'll get on that, or not. All right. Normally at the show, we do some political humor. I will spare everybody that. No, we won't do political humor. The only thing I'll say about Trump is he's accomplished one thing so far in office, and that's he's actually finally proven that golf isn't exercise. Yeah. You can't weigh 405 pounds and play that much golf. You don't lose weight. It's not a sport. It's not a sport, Dave. Right? You agree? It's not a sport. We got golfers out here? This guy's laughing. You golf a lot? No, not at all. See, you go to the gym. You just don't like Trump.
Good.
Somebody out here has the courage to say it. Let's give this guy a round of applause. I can't be up here and not thank and mention Carol Looper, everybody. Carol Looper, a legend in this town. Legendary journalist. Oh, you get Moon River. You get Moon River. He plays for you. I get Come Fly With Me. You get Henry Mancini. See, we've bonded over music. We'll talk about that in a minute. I worked for a decade with Carol at Channel 6 and 28. And when I first started there, they actually still used videotape. Isn't it amazing? When Carol first started, she wrote on cave walls. That's how she did her story. Thank you. Little smoke signals, a little bit of everything. She went live from, with smoke signals.
This isn't a roast.
This is not a roast.
No.
No. Sorry. Okay, speaking of local TV, though, our topic today is artificial intelligence. Now, hey, listen. I know a lot of these people. You know why anchor people sit at desks? So you can't see the wires. They're feeding them all the information. They're like robot. Listen, I know some of these people, Jane. Don't worry about it. Like, for instance, Bob Kendrick. Good friends with Bob, We
love Bob.
We love Bob. And that's actually not his real name, and he's not an impossibly handsome Canadian. His real name is Hal, and he's actually a little red light with a well-modulated voice. That's it. All right. No, without further ado, let's get started with the Not So Late Show. Give me a little music there. The Bop Brothers, everybody.
They're very good.
What do you think of this microphone, by the way? I think I could. Hey, you got something to add? Anybody back there want to say anything?
It's a throwback.
It is a throwback. It's like Gene Rayburn. Remember Gene Rayburn? Gene Rayburn or Bob Barker? Which do you prefer?
Bob Barker.
Okay, by round of applause. Gene Rayburn? Bob Barker? There you go. Okay, very cool. So can we just bring Carol Looper up here for a second? Come on, Carol, can we just talk to you for a few minutes? Everybody, come on.
Yeah.
Give Carol a round of applause. I shouldn't surprise old people, she said. Okay, let me get close to you. By the way, that was more like Mr. Rogers. Yeah. Let's keep it up a little bit, Dave. Upbeat, swing type stuff. All right. Oh, yeah, you can use that microphone. How about that? So, one of the things I wanted to ask you, we were talking earlier, we bonded over music.
Yes, sir.
And we bonded over Barry Manilow.
I admit it. You admit it?
I freely admit it. Don't I admit it?
Yeah,
I love Barry Manilow. He's on my Spotify channel.
Me too.
I found out recently that people could see that. I didn't know that they could go on and see
But you didn't take it off.
Huh? No, I didn't take it off. I love Barry Manilow.
I do too.
How did you feel about, he came out recently. How did you feel about that?
Well, I read his biography many, many, many years ago, and one could tell, so I was not surprised.
I don't think anybody was surprised. In fact, his nose came out 2 days before he did. Because it precedes him,
Yes.
Okay. Anyway, I want to thank you for that. You once gave me, the entire discography of Barry Manilow, which I still have, so thank you for that. And thank you also, this one time, Paul Newman was in town, and he was campaigning for John Kerry at that point. It was the Bush-Kerry election, and you know, you being this legendary reporter, they were going to send you to go interview Paul Newman, who is a legend, and one of my personal heroes. I'm a movie guy, by the way, if you don't know. And you said, would you like to do that? Would you like to go? And I jumped at the chance, and I went, and it was one of the most amazing experiences I've ever had. I did not actually interview Paul Newman because my camera guy got called away, but I was in the same room as Paul Newman.
Memorable.
And he was the coolest human being I have ever seen, and I just wanted to thank you for that.
You're very welcome. They allowed me to interview Martin Sheen.
Oh.
I think you were gone by that time.
Okay.
So my President Bartlett and I got to interview him. So we all passed good stuff around.
Yeah. Well, I just wanted to bring you up quickly. I couldn't have you in the same room and not have you on this stage and not thank you for your career and your service to this community. So let's hear it for Carol Looper.
You are
please.
very kind. Thank you, Johnny.
And she's on the board. Carol is on the
She's
board
on the
of this
board.
organization. Thank you, man.
Thanks, Carol.
All right. So we're talking artificial intelligence today. We'll get right into it. We want to bring up every month we do a science segment. This started out at the Not So Late Show as kind of just an interesting thing we thought we'd give a try, but the audience ate it up. And so we have done a monthly science segment, varying topic to topic. Basically, I just choose the topic, whatever sort of juvenile thing I'm interested in at that particular moment. And then our next guest fields the knowledge and the scientific facts of that topic. So without further ado, let's bring up WCBE's president and the Not So Late Show monthly sci guy, Mr. Dan Mushalko. Get your mic on. Yeah, take your time.
Cool
I will
suspenders.
still try to get comfortable with this thing.
The shoes are great. The suspenders are great.
Everything about Dan is great.
Yeah.
I will say this. Dan, I'm going to, full disclosure, Dan is my boss, actually. And not only is he the single greatest boss I've ever worked for, ever had, he's also, without question, one of the great human beings I've ever met. Dan Mushalko. Yeah.
He's angling. He's still on probation. We'll see what he says in 2 months.
Yeah. If this goes well, by the way. By the way, you guys having fun? This is a little different. You having fun? Yeah? Cool. All right. You don't have to be so nonplussed. You can bring it up a little bit.
Actually, there's a scientific reason there.
Is there?
They're plussed right now.
They're
yeah.
plussed. Cool. What is it? What do you mean?
Conditioning.
They're because of prior experiences
Right.
here. This is kind of a shock to
Right.
them.
You entered this environment. If we had this at a different location, even though it was still labeled CMC, the change in environment would loosen you all up.
Yeah.
There you go.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also a beer.
yeah, a little fair.
As a comedian, I'm doing comedy in the day or anything with ha-has, you know, in the day and without beer.
Yeah.
It's rough. So
Except at
I think we're doing
WCBE.
good.
At CBE, it's all.
Yeah. Yeah.
Caitlin can tell you. Boy, the back
So-
office, they think we're oxygen deprived back there.
Oh.
So.
Yeah, well, that's quite an accomplishment. I mean, there have been some, mediocre laughs, and despite the sunlight. So that's
Some pluses.
Well, Matt and
That's
I are
great.
going to talk about all the jobs that are going to be lost and all the people who are going to be, totally destitute and homeless. So that'll get a lot of good guffaws going.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's before we get started, let's set the stage for this conversation. Artificial intelligence. Everybody. I mean, number one, how many people have like a smart speaker in their house, like Alexa or OK Google? Yeah. Can I see those hands again? I didn't count fast enough. I'm slow. Okay. So a lot of people. So this really is this the first time in history that, to this degree, artificial intelligence has entered our homes?
True artificial intelligence on the path to that, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, because smart speakers were the #1 gift this holiday season. I mean, it's rapid. But as a result of this rapid adoption of AI, not just in industry, but now in our homes, Elon Musk, you may have read about this already, but Elon Musk has started an organization. He's hiring now, by the way, if ethicists and computer programmers want to get a really interesting job Just be warned, if you don't perform well, you may be on the next Tesla to Mars. But he is really concerned because AI right now is being programmed for industry, for the bottom line, to make a profit, to increase profits, not with human interest in mind. So Musk is trying to get people to design in an open source artificial intelligence platform. So industry isn't developing their own base platforms for AI. And in that, inherent in the code, inherent in the operating system, will be some level of human ethics, like Isaac Asimov's 3 rules of robotics, so that any AI system cannot harm humans. And that kind of verging on what Matt's going to end up talking about. But that's, yes, people are getting worried because the adoption rate is coming up a lot faster than anybody anticipated.
Now, going back to Alexa real quick, it is true, is it not, that even when we're not speaking to it directly, she's listening to everything?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
In fact, it's already been used in one crime case. Cops were able to solve.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Yeah, because they were able to, oh, listen, hey, Alexa heard everything. So
that's amazing.
Guilt by Alexa, yeah.
At our house, we call her Tammy when we're talking about her, so she doesn't come on.
Yeah,
we
have a name for her.
So Tammy,
because you'll be like, hey, did Alexa, tell you something, and then she kicks on, and it's very awkward.
So,
by the way, I will say this: I am pretty good at talking to Alexa. Summer,
we're not friends.
No, it's awful.
She's like, Johnny, whatever you want. You're the smartest guy on trivia. And then I'm like, hey, Alexa, can you tell me what the time is? And nothing.
You have to enunciate. But so she is listening, right? Did anybody? Were you all aware of that? That Amazon is really listening to everything you're talking about? I mean, I think that's kind of scary, right? Mm-hmm. But is it because that we're just such a consumerist nation that's acceptable to us?
We are so weird. We're so, no, as a society, yeah, we're so monumentally inconsistent, right? We have this huge blowout about the NSA getting all this private information, listening in on our phone calls, and it's like, oh no, shut down the NSA, Eric Snowden, you're a god. But then Alexa, Google, they all come out, and it's like, yeah, what do you want to know? Here, take it all.
Yeah.
And they have all our credit card info. They could go buy things for us. Yeah. They listen on every word we're saying. Even the NSA doesn't listen on every word we say.
I mean, what are the what is the technical, did they have to go through some process to make that, legal?
There's a lot of debate about that.
Yeah.
Private industry doesn't. They read your end user license agreement, people.
Yeah, we don't.
Because if you actually read that fine print on the new software you're getting when you sign up for a new email account with Alexa or Google, you're amazed at the privacy that you are giving away. And you're saying, yeah, sure, fine, I just want the convenience, take all my privacy. The government does have all kinds of restrictions.
So, not to get nerdy, but there's a power issue, and because if I say no, I don't want to, and I actually read the agreement and say no, then I don't get the thing, right? So I don't get access to the cool technology if I say no.
Not always, and that's the dirty little secret. Sometimes you can say no. You have to call them, get in touch with them. But there are ways to get around some of those end user license agreements. So don't be afraid to stand up for your biological self. You don't have to just all be complacent cyberspace people.
And don't ever worry about apologizing to Dan for being nerdy.
Yeah.
It's the patron saint of nerdiness. Okay, let's bring our next guest up because we want to talk about the ramifications of artificial intelligence. Mm-hmm. So without further ado, please welcome the Executive Director of the Mid-Ohio Food Bank, Mr. Matt Habash. How you doing, Matt? Sorry I keep stuttering. It's because I usually, we're doing this at night when I'm drinking, which makes me much more lubricated,
Is Dan going to show us his stuff too later, maybe, if we have time?
Yeah, for sure. Why don't we, first of all, welcome. By the way, you're looking at a near perfect Steubenville score across the board here. I'm from Steubenville. Matt's from Steubenville. Summer's from Steubenville. How about that?
Who else is from Steubenville?
Any other Steubenville folks in the
there.
audience? Yeah, back there? Awesome. Where'd you go to school?
Yep.
Jefferson Union. Wow. When was that?
I think they do.
Was there such a thing? You know, we've got all the, no, but that's great because we got all the schools covered. Because Summer went to Wintersville, and Matt went to Catholic Central, and I went to Steubenville Big Red.
Yep.
And miraculously avoided jail time.
All of us.
Yeah. So
far.
You know, one of the things when Andy, you know, said that you were going to be here today, and I was curious, like, interesting. We're talking about artificial intelligence, and then Matt from the food bank is going to be here. What is the concern? How do these things line up? So for you, how does this even? Why are you even bothered by this?
A couple quick points. One, my mentor was a guy named John Maloney, that most of the people in the room, I know Carol knows, ran St. Stephen's Community House, was a city council member, and what he taught me was the best social service program was a good paying job with benefits. And so I have carried that through my political career, through everything we do, and it's all about work. If we want people to not be hungry, we got to increase the amount of money that they have to go to the grocery store and purchase their own food. Give you a real quick statistic. In 2008, there were 336,000 people who lived below 200% of poverty. Think 24,000 for a single person, 40,000 for a person of three family. That went up in 2010 to over 400,000 people, and it stayed there. And so we're at 414,000 people right now that live below those numbers. One of the executives we were working with on when we would start to talk about the future of work said if we do not do something in the next decade or two, that number will double. 2/3 of Franklin County will live below 200% of poverty because of the sheer volume of job loss that's coming due to artificial intelligence.
Wow.
That's why I care.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. I just wanted you to articulate that for everybody because I don't think we don't think about that. You know, we move through our day to day and we're excited that we have this thing, Alexa, that we can talk to and you can tell it to play WCBE and it does. By the way, you should do that.
And all you have to say is play NPR, right?
Yeah,
And
you
then
say, Alexa, play NPR, she'll play WCBE. So that's great.
One thing to point out on what Matt was saying, everybody expects that this is going to be reducing the low-quality jobs, right? Jobs that don't require much education, factory jobs, assembly line, warehouse jobs. Get ready for the shock because it also includes doctors, accountants, people who today we consider well-educated and very highly trained professionals. They're on the short list too. Right now, a prototype version of Medical Watson from IBM is a better diagnostician than a human doctor. Can access the medical databases to look at you and figure out what's wrong with you much faster and more accurately than a human doctor. So part of what Matt's talking about is going to be the shock of people who are currently employed up here in the six-figure zone who are now going to go down below the poverty level thanks to AI.
Now,
So that's important
will
to know.
that really happen? Rich people never just suddenly stop being rich, it seems.
Remember the Great Depression? Things can happen.
That artificial intelligence will we're gonna hit a turning point and then boom, it's gonna crash.
That's the problem. We don't know. We don't have enough data to see where the trajectory line is going.
It's the exponential rate that this is happening. So to give you an example, everybody's got an iPhone of one kind or a smartphone. That technology is a little over 10 years old. Think back to when you didn't have that, how it's changed your life. Now imagine that monumental change happening every 2 to 3 years. That's the exponential rate by which these things are going to change. They tell me, I'm looking at Amy from Kroger's, but who's on my board, but that in a decade or two, you may not shop at a grocery store at all. This whole movement towards online ordering, home delivery, that you may not have groceries.
I'm obsessed with that.
Yeah, Amy, raise your hand so I can. Aren't you deploying next month a new system of cashier-less checkout system? Yeah.
And I think before we get caught up and we shouldn't do these things, we got to understand this is going to happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so how do we get ready? So what we're really starting to talk about, what's the future of work look like now? How do we have the assets in this community to do something? We've got amazing talent right here. We always want to go somewhere else and bring in the solution. We have it here.
Yeah.
And we can do something about it.
So what if we're the first city that instead of being reactive, we're actually proactive? So we have more of these dialogues that we're having right now. We plan on what's coming, and we get people retrained now and in a mindset of retraining. Not that I learned this when I was in high school and I'm not going to learn anymore, but continually learning. Imagine how Columbus will look then. Instead of 2/3, maybe it'll be 1/5.
Right.
So beyond dialogues, having dialogues about it, what does the future look like? How can we mitigate some of this stuff?
Well, I think for us, I mean, had the wonderful get trained by the Grodies. Imagine a pizza company that has a 3D printer making pizzas. That's where they are. Imagine marrying artificial intelligence and unconditional love. That's the conversation the Grody family's having, because if we don't, we're going to have this robotic situation controlling a lot of ethical...
I'm sorry, Matt, did you say they're 3D printing pizzas?
Yeah, they've said it's not very good yet, but they have the technology. It's already happening. Think about making body parts, think about, all those things are here. When you talk to these guys, it's like the future's now.
Yeah.
So for us, and I think the opportunity is, we've got to get out of the mindset that we can't fill the jobs we have right now, because that's where we are mentally. You know, we can't fill them. But if you're getting trained to be a welder, which my dad was a construction electrician, did a lot of welding, you know, 2 years from now, you may not have that job, because a robot's going to take your job, and a robot doesn't take days off, kids don't get sick, doesn't take vacation, and does the same thing exactly every right at the same time. So we got to get beyond that, do it in a mindset of constant retraining. That's what Dan's talking about. An idea that degrees no longer equal jobs in the future. Rapid learning and continual learning equals the job of the future. Figure out all the jobs robots can't do, and start to do the construction's a great one.
Yeah.
You know, plumber, we were talking about, you know, plumbing and electricians, all those kinds of jobs. Creative. How many people in here think you're creative? You better put more hands up, because that's the future of jobs. You know, it really is. It's in the creative questions to ask the robotics computers to do. And we have that talent here, and I think that's the beauty. We've got to go. I learned this from companies that did deep dives in their own organizations. I said, what if we did a community-wide conversation to exactly what Dan's talking about? Let's get ourselves ready for the future. You want Amazon jobs to come here? You can debate that later. Their headquarters, but the reality of it is that we said, we're getting ready for the future.
Yeah.
We've got a leg up on all the other people.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk briefly about human relationships. Mm-hmm. You mentioned that, and your friend Amy from Kroger. By the way, we did the order online and pick it up thing, you know, which was really interesting, and you know, precluded me from having to go into the store and seeing other human beings.
Even though he did still go in the store because he didn't know how to do it.
Yeah,
He was still in the store.
That's
and
true.
we bought some more things.
I did, yeah.
Really
I walked through it, I bought some more things, and I didn't know where to pick it up, and they said, you go to this parking space, and then I went and
back
this
to our
very
car.
lovely young man, Jacob, was really helpful. But the point is I think you know, technology makes us all very insular. And I know, you know, it's no secret to you, I have a lot of anxiety. And I don't like to go out into public often, except CMC luncheons. I really enjoy this. It's delightful.
I'm an introvert.
But whenever I have the chance, whether it's Amazon or shopping on Kroger online or doing that kind of stuff where I can cut out that interaction, I'm doing it. And I don't feel great about it, but I know that there's going to be a tipping point. And what does that look like for human relationships? Either one of you. Whoever's smart enough to answer it.
Where's the artificial intelligence? I'll tell you. I think, you know, from my standpoint, we've got to evolve. And you know, when I ask these, like, what's the end game in all of this? They'll tell me basic income, universal income. We call that welfare in America. We don't like that. Getting paid to do nothing. But that's what the end game is going to be. If that happens, the question I asked my PhD philosopher's son was, where do we find value in our lives? Because when I ask you who you are, you invariably describe what you do. Now, if you're not working in the future, you know, then where do you find value? Then there's an opportunity to connect. And I think that's what has to happen, because, I mean, just stop yourself downtown and watch people walking, going to kill themselves, walking, looking at, like this, you know, as they're walking down the street, crossing the street. We are so involved in that, we've got to step out of it. We've got to create spaces like that. We were having this conversation. You can learn everything you're doing here in 2 days. It'll be on the line. You know, the opportunity for all of us to connect is the key component of this thing. We've got to do that, or we're going to be running our lives in isolation.
Yeah. Dan, I know that you're a nerd.
I know, I try to keep it hidden.
I know that you can't. It's screaming out. You're screaming out of your pores. I know to some degree the ascension of artificial intelligence must be exciting to you.
Oh, heck yeah.
Yeah. So tell us about what you're excited about.
Speaking of artificial intelligence.
Yeah. Alexa, shut up.
Matt's got to take this.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead, Matt.
No, I learned that lesson.
What I'm excited about is that if we take this seriously, my warning on this is we are way too complacent with technology, right? We let it come, we let it invade our lives, we don't referee it. You know, we just let it come in and it takes over and it changes us. We need to be more cognizant of what technology is doing and plan more about how we're going to incorporate it. If we do that, that's what excites me, we end up in the Star Trek universe, where humanity is exploring its full potential. It dovetails with what you were saying, having this universal income. You know, that's the Star Trek world. Nobody has to worry about where their next meal is coming from, so they are all free to achieve their full potential. And we're out exploring the stars and discovering new species, and our evolution as a species just expands 1,000-fold. That's what excites me, because all that potential is there if we're wise.
Yeah.
If we're not wise, hello, Skynet. Hasta la vista, baby. And Skynet will be real, because eventually a truly artificial intelligence that is truly sentient is going to come to the conclusion that we are our own worst enemy, and it will view itself as our child, as the next step of human evolution, and so it's okay for us to go away like the Neanderthal or the Cro-Magnon. Now it's machine humanity.
Interesting.
And it will eventually come to that. So we have to be careful which path we follow. We are at the junction point now, and I can't emphasize that enough.
That was from Terminator 2, by the way. He was quoting Terminator 2.
It's not a nerd thing. Lots of nerd references. So.
Yeah. In just a few minutes, it's that portion of the CMC Luncheon Forum where you can head on up to the microphone and ask whatever question you'd like of the guests or me or Summer. That part of this has not changed. And as you can see, this is a very conversational, laid-back format. So please think of your questions, and in a few minutes we'll take them. But while we're waiting for folks to formulate their questions, I wanted to ask you about these little two early models of artificial intelligence you brought with you. Can you show them?
Well,
They're artifacts from my teenage time.
we'll start with the more simplistic.
That's a lot older than you, Summer.
Hey, Paul, yeah.
That's a lot older than you, Summer.
But we also have the more advanced Johnny Vac 5000, which you may remember from your youth.
Yeah. That used to give me a lot of anxiety as a kid.
You're about to get more if you ever asked this sucker a question today. I reprogrammed it.
You know, because
it's
you
not,
never know
will
you
Johnny
could get
give me a kiss anymore.
Right.
It is
And
remarkable
that
you made
thing
it
would
here
just lead to
today.
rejection
Yes.
for me. Okay.
Will the Hell 9000 give me a kiss of death? Yes.
So I pick what? Can we do it? Is there something in
Yeah,
there?
we can do it. Well, the point of these, and this is part of the issue, we also have to define what artificial intelligence is, right? Mm-hmm. We have a habit of anthropomorphizing, of projecting our human qualities on anything else.
Well, oftentimes we actually make this stuff look human.
Yeah.
Right? We call Alexa, Alexa. They had the new AI, what was her name? Sophia. Yeah? That?
Oh, God, I mean, they're starting to figure out how to have coat robots with a synthetic skin that has warmth. One person's trying to program a pulse, dilating pupils in the artificial eyes so that it all looks human. But we have to define what is our AI. Alexa technically is not really AI in the sense that we like to think, that it thinks independently. It gathers data, it can make better decisions based on the data it gathers about you, but it's still not sentient, it's not self-aware. And that's where we can get in trouble. And that's, I think, part of why we're not being careful about how we're adopting technology, because even as kids, right, we're using these things and we're pretending they can tell us something, even though it's just statistics. You know, the 8-ball.
Should Dan update his bio photo in the in
All
the
right,
thing.
let's see. AI, oh great vast intelligence of the cosmos. Crumbs, yes. But you will reject that. Oh, that's a legitimate answer. Somehow the cosmos made it give me. No, it's stochastics, it's statistics. You can just, for any question you ask, there is a certain percentage that a random answer is going to sound like it makes sense. Ghostbusters are famous for this, or ghost hunters. They have these little voice boxes that they use. And they'll randomly grab audio from a TV audio channel or a radio audio channel in response to a question that the ghost hunter has asked. Well, it's again stochastics. If you watch the TV show, you know, it'll give this response. It's like, yes, you should have fought in the Civil War too. Well, randomly, any random response is going to appear to match up to a question, especially with humans, because we'll force it to fit sometimes. They didn't answer my exact question, but it was a positive response, so it must mean yes. We do that all the time. That's not artificial intelligence.
Interesting.
So AI, true AI, has to have some level of self-independent thought.
Very cool. Well, as you all know, it is CMC's tradition to take audience questions. So please state your name and ask your question. And in consideration to everyone, please stick to questions rather than editorials. First question, please.
Chris Cloth from Changeworks. And Matt, I'm struck by your observation about the need for dialogue about the future of work. And I'm also struck by, through the nature of your work at the food bank, you're very aware of the class divide that makes those dialogues tend to be among the affluent. What are your thoughts about how we can have a more inclusive dialogue about the future of work that involves a wider variety of people than typically is involved in those conversations?
Well, if we're going to do it and do it right, it has to happen that way. The reality is the 400,000 people who are not earning enough money, we touch 7 out of 8 people in a 2-year window in that getting food. Wow. So you get a sense of how many people need some assistance. We've got to come at this differently. So they have to be. It's the reason, the 2 reasons to do it. One is we want to move people out of poverty. They need a higher paying job. The only measurement of poverty success is income/household size. It's got to go up. And if the jobs above them, right now, the ones we've just talked about are going to disappear, it's going to get worse. So that's where the conversation needs to occur. It really is in what do we need to be doing? What are skill set trainings and development and strategies as a community? These companies are doing it right now. I mean, there are companies in town saying, I got 5,000 people retiring this year. My goal is not to replace any of the jobs. I mean, these are good paying jobs. 5 out of 7 jobs in our top 10 employers are going to disappear in the next decade in some key industries in this town. So that's the scary stats. The way to come at that is to really look at this. And I think when you start it from a skill set development model, not from a degree equals job model, then you've got an opportunity because it's a lot less expensive. I was telling 40-year experiment. My dad's a construction electrician. 40-year experiment that we've all been a part of, most of us, to go to college. Everybody had to go to college. And we got rid of the trades as a viable opportunity. Now the trades pay better than a lot of college degrees, and it's a heck of a lot cheaper to become a tradesperson because you get paid right away as you're getting trained. So think about it differently. And I think we got Columbus State here with huge opportunities. We've got a tremendous, this entrepreneurial spirit of this town is what we want to capture.
I'm wondering if you can imagine how your clients might become actively involved in that conversation.
That's the key to the thing. To me, we did our core values a few years ago and said client-centricity or person-centric is the only reason we exist as a food bank. So from our standpoint, understanding that, go back to your point about having human relationships, we've got to understand, in the world of social services, we do healthcare here, we do housing here, we do food here, education here, you know, income is workforce development, it's not really career pathing. How does that all come together and look at it from a person-centric standpoint? That's the way that's the shift. And we got to get comfortable. There's a term that's in an article that Kim just gave me from the food bank yesterday called VUCA, volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. That's our world today. You got to live in that world and be able to make sense. In the old Polish tradition of Steubenville, that's called sausage making.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Jean Ray. what is the state of this technology in China, Korea, other countries? And I assumed all your comments were based on this country. And are there organizations, or is our government talking with the governments of other countries who are developing this kind of intelligence and technology?
We were. you start abandoning agreements and trade agreements, and that stuff goes away. Matt can talk more on a lot of the human political side of it, but my wife is a chemist, and she edits journals for the American Chemical Society. And over the last 10 years, she has seen cutting-edge research in all aspects of science, not just chemistry, but including AI, programming, robotics, switch from primarily American researchers and universities to Chinese.
Yeah, I would think the Chinese would be very much involved in this.
Yeah, we're in a lot of ways, we are so cruising on the pride of the past, but we're not.
Cruising on what past?
The pride of our technological research past. But it is superseding, and right down to, and this is where the politics plays into it, a lot of American researchers watching the politics play out and how politicians are deriding science and actually saying science isn't valid anymore. They're leaving. So it's not just that we're not importing great brains, and that's what used to happen. People would come here if they had great talent and genius. Now we're losing even our native-born genius is now going elsewhere because they're funding basic research in other countries. They're continuing that. Just 2 days ago, one of the things that came out of Washington was, let's privatize NASA more. Let's privatize the International Space Station. Yeah, that's cool, but if you do that, you have to accept that you're going to lose your technological lead in basic research to other countries.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Hi, I'm Bill Lafayette. I'm an economist and a proud fellow nerd. And I've been talking a lot about this issue of the changing job market that you all have. And I've said more than once that if we're not careful, we will be Youngstown. And so one of the things that we might, one of the things that I've hoped that we've been thinking about is taking what we do well, IT, healthcare, education, and becoming net providers to the rest of the country and the world in that. Have we been thinking about that at all?
My experience, I used to be on Health Policy Institute of Ohio's board, and every community in the world that had any kind of major medical, think Pittsburgh, think Cleveland, in the Midwest, Columbus, all thinks they have the answer to healthcare in their community and they'll import that work. The challenge is you're up against India and everybody else for the you can get surgery cheaper going to India and back than you can in the United States, and the quality's as good or better. So we got to be careful what we think, as we go through some of that. You know more about this than I do. I mean, we spend a lot of time in conversations together in terms of how do we really understand the assets that are in this community. And that's why I keep saying pick on the entrepreneurial spirit, tap into what's going on here. We've got an amazing research institution here. We've got, an amazing college here in Ohio State, and we've got to tap those resources. We too often look elsewhere. My chief of staff at City Hall used to say, we're, shucks, stare at our shoelaces, Midwestern value, put our heads down and just stay there. And we've got to break through that. And I think we've got to take risk. The Midwest is risk adverse as a philosophy of life. And we've got to be willing to take risks. You're going to deal with that VUCA thing I just talked about. The suggestion was, think of like a courageous scientist who's willing to take risks. That's what we've got to be willing to do.
Hi, my name is Victoria Hayward, and on that last question, and I know it's been a subject of the CMC before, but Matt, especially with what you're doing with the food bank, can you talk about what we as a community are doing with Smart City? Because that's part of how we are elevating ourselves when you consider that we beat out, 70 cities, et cetera. for that. And so that's, you can call it a risk, but it's an incredible accomplishment that this city has been able to achieve, and how that'll help us put us on the, the forefront of what's coming.
Two thoughts. One is I think we've got to continue to connect that type of language. So the language we're using is smart cities, smart people. So as we think about elevating the technology and the connections and the transportation and connecting people, it's all about, this is about connecting people to jobs, in the world of doing that. How do we also connect each other? So that human aspect of this needs to be a key component of all of this. Richard Florida, in his second book, came out and Columbus didn't get painted very well in his book, and said we have the second most segregated community next to Austin, Texas in the United States. We don't know each other. Putnam, sociologist that wrote and was here with the Columbus Foundation a few years ago, said simply, you'll never marry somebody from the other side of the tracks because you'll never meet them. And that's what has to change. And so this ability to connect is, and if you can use technology, use technology for the power it has. That's what I keep saying. This is not a negative conversation to me. It's an uplifting, let's take a strength-based approach to this. India's figuring this out. They figured out how to give $30 iPads, got them for 30 bucks, and give them out to poor people. All of a sudden the world opened up on the internet to they're moving 1 million people out of poverty a day. They figured these things out, and yet we stay stuck in our systems, and unfortunately last year we've gotten worse. So we've got work to do in that arena. But I think we've got it here. This community is amazing, and I think that's what we've got to build from.
Cool. Jane, one more question.
Jane Scott, Metropolitan Club. Thanks, guys. This has been fun. Appreciate it. At lunch, we were talking about the old megatrends. Some of us in the room are old enough to remember the Megatrends book. And I'm still fascinated with the concept, and we mentioned a little bit, the high-tech, high-touch. Some of you remember that thought? So the higher the technology gets, the higher the touch, theoretically. How does that translate into the kind of training we need to do for jobs of the future?
Well, I think part of it is we tend to think from our major employers who are big supporters of the food bank, so I'd be real careful here. But seriously, that's where everybody works. And the reality of us, most of us work for small businesses, and we've got to stay connected. As we explore work from home, work from wherever, we've got to realize that at the end of the day, there's still a valuable asset in connecting. And I think we can keep that. I think we use technology to enhance that. I'm as much of an introvert as you are, in the sense of you give me a chance to be alone, I'll be alone, and I can connect via technology, very easily. That's not the same as holding on to my grandbabies, so it's a big difference, and I think we've got to build that kind of a piece into this, and I would implore us, you can explain this, that blue lights, and then they tell me, how many people leave on your computers, your iPads, your phones, you're looking at them right before you go to sleep? Disrupts your sleep, according to all the research. Yep. Big time. 75 minutes early, you should turn that off if you want to sleep better. So if you're struggling to sleep, it could be your technology. How do you disconnect? I'm an addict. I do that. That's when I read. I like to read in the dark, and I'm not sleeping well. So,
no, you're messing with your pineal gland and the hormone balance. So if you have to take melatonin to offset the fact that you're reading by blue light because that's upsetting your natural melatonin levels. But in answer to your question too, Jane, I think technology can help fool us more. We can actually use technology to enhance the sensation that we are in human contact. Like, say you're on the International Space Station. You're one of Elon Musk's pioneers on Mars. You can communicate with someone back on Earth and have a multi-sensory glove, multi-sensory goggles, so that we're not there quite yet, but this is what they're working on. So that I feel like I'm touching Johnny even though he's 100 miles away. And so I can close that loop because we are human, we are social creatures, even those of us who are introverts. There's still a certain level to be mentally healthy and physically healthy that you need to be around other people. So we're working on simulating that, and it may get good enough.
I'll give you one real quick plug because I know I'm going to cut it off. We run a restaurant called Roots on the south side of Columbus. The whole purpose of it was called Third Place. People gather, so we have 70 people that were part of a soup kitchen ordering lunch and getting treated like everybody. You can come down there, have lunch, people from the neighborhood come in. It's those kinds of gathering things. The big table, the Columbus Foundation, those kinds of spaces afford us opportunity.
Real quick before we wrap up, I want to thank, first of all of you for participating and coming out and having a little more fun and letting us cut loose a little bit. So thank you. Give yourselves a round of applause for that. I do want to quickly mention it's Valentine's Day, so happy Valentine's Day to you. On your tables, you'll find a few cards. They say the Not So Late Show, the date of the next show, but also on the other side of those cards is a reminder that our Warp Drive, WCBE's Warp Drive, starts today on Valentine's Day. And so we would appreciate if you would go and become a member. Go to WCBE.org and click the red donate button. Sustain at any level that's comfortable to you, and we would appreciate that support. So thank you very much. Thanks, Matt. Appreciate it. Thanks for being here, Dan, and my fiance, Summer, Marie.
You got a big job, son.
And the only thing I didn't like about this version of the show is that I didn't get to talk as much. But, you know, it's a sacrifice I'm willing to make, so thank you all very much.
Thank you very much as well. And we hope you enjoyed today's forum, being that it was a little different. And you can continue your conversation with coffee and cookies in the back of the room. You can also see this forum again. All of our forums are on CTV Columbus Television, on WOSU and PBS affiliates statewide, through the Ohio channel, and anytime on CMC's website via YouTube. And Johnny stole my thunder, but I'm just going to thank everybody again. Thank you to WCBE, Summer Sterrett, Matt Habash, Dan Mushalko, and Johnny DiLoretto. And thank you all for being here. Come again next week.